Hey everyone, it's Michael and
Reuben.
what's that, a time delay there? Because you're
There's a
so
little bit
far
of
away.
delay.
From Bullion Now, bullionnow.com.au. So, Rubes, I believe you've completed the third and final day of the public access anyway to the World Money Fair. Is that correct?
The show is now over, yeah. Although I have to admit, it did kind of wind up very, very quickly today. There was, I'd say, a very lackluster crowd. A lot of today was really packing up, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? The Sunday, I was going to say kind of by lunchtime, people have started packing up, but to be honest, it's pretty much from 9 o'clock. They seem to be
Yep.
starting to pack up and get out of there, don't they?
Yep, absolutely. So there was a lot of people that were coming in for meetings earlier in the week that actually didn't even bother hanging around till today. A lot of people left on the Saturday afternoon. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was very interesting to see that it didn't actually stretch 3 full days like it I kind of imagined it did in my head. But hey, it was still a good day. It was still a good show, and yeah, had a great time.
Okay, so what are the highlights of the show for you?
Honestly, just kind of seeing how many different takes on how many different ways you can present gold and silver. We obviously we see plenty of different designs come through, but I really got to see a lot of the different kind of artistry behind it this time. There's a lot of people there that are selling quite premium products, but also just different styles and different techniques that we may not see either just as standard bullion or through into Australia very often. So it was kind of good to see what the world had on offer. It was kind of putting up its best.
Yeah. So talk about talk about the size of the show and what you thought of that.
It was a lot bigger than I kind of thought it was going to be. You kind of can't even get a little bit lost between the different halls. You kind of go, hang on, how do I get from here to here? Um, there is actually still room for it to grow, which I was surprised at. There was even
Okay.
a kind of a half conference hall that wasn't being used. And they're actually building a new area that'll still be a part of the Astral. So potentially in future, there's even more room for it to spill out into. But yeah, it was definitely took quite a while to get around it, and I took some footage of trying to navigate around all that. So yeah, you should be able to get a bit of an idea there.
Yeah, you may even find that because this is really the first year back since COVID, so you may find that they didn't have a full contingent. Did they have the section that was separate for the like the minting products, the machinery and that sort of stuff?
They did. It definitely saw a lot less traffic. You kind of went into the room and went, "Is this actually open? Is this actually a part of the show?" You kind of noticed a lot more kind of sit down meetings happening there. Even though a lot of people were doing meetings out in kind of the main hall area before you actually went into the show itself. This was kind of almost a private meeting room for those looking at the production side of things.
Yeah, okay. So what were the major mints there? And who was the sponsor for this year's or the
I
highlight for this year's?
I'm going to be honest. I don't actually know if I could have told you who was a sponsor. I didn't see anyone that kind of attached their name to anything. So I may have missed something there. I'll have to go back and look through my catalog there and see. But no, I didn't see
Usually
it.
they do a focus on one particular mint. Like 5 years ago, I reckon it had been now with COVID. They highlighted the Perth mint for the show, so it was kind of like the focus mint of the show. They didn't do that this year.
No, I'm going to be honest. I don't think so.
Well, there you go. Well, if they did, they
Um,
didn't do a very good job of it.
well, clearly, yeah. But no, we saw the Austrians there. We saw the Germans, the Americans. Perth was there.
Yep.
All sorts of places around the world. I was surprised and a little disappointed. I didn't see any of the South Africans there. Was really hoping to have a chance to chat to them about the Big Five. We've got a lot of people chasing that series,
Hmm.
but sadly didn't see anyone from there. But yeah, plenty of countries, plenty of representation, plenty of countries that I actually didn't expect to be there. There was Kazakhstan were there, Thailand were there, India were there. There was kind of some of these places that I kind of went, oh, you're producing coins, and you're actually here on the world scale. So it was interesting to see some of those that I just hadn't considered before.
Yeah. So what have you got there that you're showing us?
So we've got, I'd say, front and center there is the show special Kookaburra. Now, this one caused a little bit of controversy at the show, and I'm sure will continue to do so as the release goes on, because the Perth Mint sold out in about 2 hours on the first day. They had
Always
lines.
does.
They had lines. Although apparently it's faster than normal. The guys at Perth Mint were saying that they've never really seen a reception quite like this one. So yeah, it's good for the collectability of this design, and yeah, we'll have to see how the Australia release of that goes. But yeah, it looks very popular this year, and it is a very cool design. I've also got sitting there some sweets branded from particular mints. We had some from Germania Mint and from Bull Mint. I might have to see if I can get those back for you to incorporate a taste test as well.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
We got a couple of
bars. That's the
bars
sovereign that you haven't managed to trade that in yet?
No, I haven't. So the plan at this stage is to sell that one in England again, if I can actually bear to part with it. And we've also got the I'd say the highlight of the downfall of fiat currencies there, with a $500 million note out of the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe.
Did they have the pallet loads of Zimbabwean and what's the other country? Zimbabwe and
Venezuela.
Venezuela. Did they have those pallet loads of notes?
Yeah. So not necessarily for sale, but kind of as a lot of the stands were setting up their displays and things like that, you would see them unpacking these packs of cash. And there was a great. I'll see if I can find the footage I took of it. And there was a really great metaphor, almost with a gentleman using his giant wad of cash as a phone stand. He was sitting there at his display, and he just had his phone leant up against this stack of hyperinflated fiat currency. And I thought it was a great, way back when they we've heard stories about them burning their notes to get some practical use out of them. Now you stack them all up, and you can use it as a phone stand, and that's its practical use.
You haven't got it shown there, but we need to do a video. You've been telling me that you found evidence that the European Union has finally admitted the value of their fiat currency.
Absolutely, straight monopoly money. So there's the €0 notes, which I'm gonna be honest, I hadn't actually really heard about as much of a thing kind of before this show, but it was definitely a thing over here. They were kind of everywhere, and that's it. There's different kind of designs you can get. If you can think of it, it's probably been done on a €0 note. There was so many of them over here, including machines where you could get a random one. But there was one that drew my eye, and that was the monopoly money, which is often joked around fiat currencies in general. So yeah, I had to pick up a couple of those. Just I thought they were a cool highlight.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. The last time I was in the money show, so what's that, three odd years ago. I'd seen them before, and they'd never been kind of that big a deal. But that last World Money Fair I went just pre-COVID, they were huge. There was books on them. There was massive collector stands. There was everywhere. And you're right, they have them for every occasion, every place, like they had Disney Euro ones and Euro Disney ones, and I don't know, all sorts of strange and wonderful things on these Euro notes, and they seem to be the collector thing of the year. So I was curious as to if they'd be still as big 3 years later, and it sounds like they definitely
absolutely are. The very weird thing, and it actually took me a little bit into the show to notice, but Mark pointed it out for me, and that was the complete absence of a Australian $2 coin. Did not see any there the entire show, from a collectible point of view. I'm sure there might have been one hiding somewhere, but in comparison,
no poppies at all.
Didn't see a single one.
I'm actually shocked.
Yeah,
I would have thought that would have been front and center on a couple of the dealers that, unless they weren't there, but there was a couple of dealers that used to specialize in Australian coins. They weren't Australian dealers, but they were European ones.
No, did not see
a
single one.
I would have assumed that they'd have them.
I know there was a very big line on the first day of entry with people raring to go. So I suspect that there may have been a couple in charging to see if there was anything that they could scoop up. So there's a potential that some went in the rush, but no, from what I could see when I toddled in shortly after. Could not see any $2 coins hiding, which, yeah, like I said, made it feel very different to an Australian coin show, which is often filled with such things.
Yeah. So if you could pick something that wasn't there that you were disappointed not to see, other than the $2 coins,
Other than
what
the
would it
$2
be?
coins. Honestly, with a show like this, I'd expect a few more free silver giveaways or even gold giveaways, Michael. I don't know. I don't know
Oh, the
why there
gold
wasn't.
giveaways as well.
I don't know why there wasn't people lining up, willing to give out samples. If I'm honest, how am I supposed to test this product out without without some good samples? I am
Oh
kidding, of
dear.
course.
I'll put the word around for next year, mate. Make sure you sort it out.
Yeah, exactly. It's probably one of the few places that you could hand out silver coins, and pretty much everyone there know the actual value of them.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, you got some germanium mint. What's that, chocolate or?
Yeah, yep. So
Yeah, so what
I
more could you
suppose.
want, mate?
Yeah. Well, look, I can't complain. I can't complain.
It's even wrapped in gold paper.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. It's actually the silver. I don't know how it's coming up on camera, but yeah,
Oh, it's silver, is it?
yeah.
It looks gold
There you
on
go,
the angle that I've
gilded,
got it on.
gilded.
All
So
right.
yeah, we'll kind of go through hopefully some of the interviews and discussions we had over the next little bit. We'll release some of those. But there's also been some very interesting conversations. Not all of which I'll be able to share.
Yeah.
But yeah, give you a little bit of a sneak peek into what's happening in the market and kind of what coins are coming out, and kind of what direction some of these mints and companies are looking at heading in for 2023. It was really interesting to have some of those conversations.
Yeah, it's a bit difficult with these shows, and we've hinted at this a couple of times where you're going over there and you want to record everything, but you've got a couple of things working against you. Not everyone wants to appear in front of camera, and quite often they're talking about market sensitive pre-releases and information and things like that. So no one wants it on camera.
Yeah,
So you kind of cornered a little bit as to how much you can release, and you've got to triple check everything to make sure that something hasn't got in that wasn't meant to get in, and all that sort
absolutely,
of stuff. So
absolutely. But
did you? I won't get you to show it, but did you get to look at any of the pre-release coins in real life from any of the mints?
I did. So we
Oh,
saw a couple out of the New Zealand mint.
yep.
So there was a couple of kind of more numismatic coins that they actually had some physical samples of. So it was great to see some of those. There's some cool stuff coming. And Perth actually had some of their designs of their upcoming releases actually physically there as well. So again, sadly, I did check, not going to be able to show those, but there are some interesting designs coming out of them as well.
Yeah. They didn't have the 24 prototypes out yet, did they, of the Lunar Year?
No, they didn't. Although there was discussion around those, the idea of them being very collectible because you've got the Year of the Dragon that'll be coming out for 24,
Yeah.
and also the fact that there will probably be Perth Mint's first use of the new King Charles effigy. So you've kind of got a double barrel there. So I
Did
think
they
they're
give any indication of time frame on the effigy?
they didn't, although I kind of suspect that they'll wait for this year to finish because it's a very manual process for them, and big change for them to be swapping all the dies over and everything. There was some grumbling about the fact that they'll have to be doing that now twice with the new commemorative effigy and then swapping to the King Charles. So I would suggest that they're not going to be in a rush to do that, and we'll probably see the year out with that.
Yeah, okay. Ah, good stuff. I'm still, and I hadn't actually thought about this till one of the questions was pitched to us, possibly in a live stream or something, where somebody said, "I want to see how they fit two dragons because this series three, all their silvers seem to have a type of mother and baby scenario playing out."
Yeah.
So the question was asked, and the more I think about it, the more I'm curious as to how they are going to fit that mother and baby type theme into the dragon. on the silver coin this next year. So looking
whilst
forward to
also
seeing that.
keeping the kind of ferocity and size and grandeur of a dragon, but you've got to also then fit two on there, without
Yeah,
making it small and
I
weedy.
hope they don't lose that impact.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure they're more than capable of doing it. I'm just curious as to how.
The
So we haven't talked much about that the coloured kookaburra for the World Fair. There, we touched on it, but it's a beautiful coin. The way they've coloured it up, and the way they brought the blue out in the wings. I think it's and the red of the
Absolutely.
Waratahs. I think it's a stunning coin, and they're only limited to 2,000. So yeah, going to be proverbial hen's teeth to get hold of with those.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely love the design there with the blues and the reds, and yeah, as you said, only 2,000, and that is in a year that there was a lot of people physically at the World Money Fair, and I think a lot of people are going to be looking to get a hold of it. So yeah, definitely a an interesting one to grab. We will have to wait and see. I haven't actually checked too much what the Australian side release of this coin is going to look like. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there.
Yeah.
The kind of general takeaway, overall takeaway from the show that we're hearing from a lot of the mints and places is that premiums are starting to come down. Not just starting actually, but actually, I think I got the impression it'll be a bit of a race to the bottom.
Really?
So it'll be interesting to see what happens in that space, who starts dropping their premiums and by how much, and if that's likely to have a flow-on effect into some of the big ones like American Eagles and things like that, or if it's just going to be your Kangaroos and your Britannias and Philharmonics kind of competing for that space.
I'm a little bit speechless if I'm completely honest on that one, because the demand is still there. So I'm excited if it flows through. I certainly haven't seen it appear on any of the wholesaler lists yet that have come
Yep.
through. Um, yeah, that will be fascinating if that starts to flow through. Are we talking drastic drops, or are they just saying, it's going to drop 10% type of scenario?
In some cases, fairly drastic drops. So we'll see how that kind
Oh,
of competitive nature between the mints actually plays out.
yeah,
They'll kind of, I think, wait a little bit to see how their competitors play it. So I don't want to go too on the record and say, oh, it'll be by this much or that much. But I know a lot of them were talking quite a bit down in comparison to where conversations were, even this time last year, where it was kind of a case of who's going up by the most. So it's good to
yeah,
see that at least on the downwards trend.
yeah. Okay. Did they give any indication of why they're dropping their premiums?
A little bit, I think, is that they've kind of started to meet some of the demand that was kind of getting raised there towards the end of the year, and a lot of people, a lot of the head honchos have kind of brought forward, I think, a lot of their purchases. And over the last couple of months, as that demand even just a little bit has dropped away, I'd say with the increase in spot price, I think it's got a few of them a little bit worried. They're kind of looking at their stockpiles of silver that they've got to sell, going, hang on a minute, I've got all this silver. There's not, a whole heap of demand at the moment. What do I do with it? And so that nervousness, I'd say, was felt a little bit. And yeah,
I
we'll
think
see
they're
how long it hangs
panicking.
around.
I think if that's the case, they're panicking a little bit early. Um, it's hard to say. This harks back to a conversation that Neil from Perth Mint and I had when we were over in Perth that time, where he was saying normally these massive demands in precious metals last that 6 to 8 months, and then they fall off the perch fairly quickly. 2008, 2009, and into 2011, 2012 were both classic examples where it lasted that 6 to 8 months, and then demand didn't collapse, but it certainly rolled off the top. Whereas back then, when we were in Perth, Neil was saying, this one's been running for 2.5 years and showing no signs of slowing. So I think everyone's a bit a case of, well, we've been running almost 3 years now at this demand level. Can it last? I don't want to be the last one holding the baby type scenario. So I think they might be panicking just a fraction early, but that's absolutely to our benefit, both as retailers and as consumers, if that is the case.
Absolutely, that's it. If you can take advantage of some cheaper premiums, why not?
Yeah. So now the balance is, do we hold off our purchases and risk paying a higher spot price? Like, there's no use getting, $1 off your premium if spot goes up $2. It kind of outweighs itself. But yeah, it's interesting. I'd love to see it. I doubt very much we're going to see it come out of the Eagles much, because there is such built-up demand, like already placed orders from what we're led to believe. But if it takes the sting out of, like you said, the Maples, the Phillies, those types of things, that will then allow some of that excess pressure from the Eagles flow over to those others, and hopefully it'll bring that premium on the Eagles down quicker. But I'll believe it when I see it.
That's it.
Yeah. All righty. Well, we've probably gone on long enough, I'd say, Rubes.
I reckon.
So thank you very much for staying up late. It's getting on over there, so I won't try and keep you up much longer. Has it been worth the all expenses paid company holiday for you?
I mean, the answer is always going to be yes, even if it hasn't. But yeah, no, it was a real eye-opening trip, and that's it. Hopefully, we'll be able to actually put in place some of these conversations and actually turn it into some new deals, some new products, and yeah, some more content as well.
Yeah, I've got to say, from my side, as disappointed as I am that I couldn't go, and there's stuff that you and I have talked about that we can't talk about in the public realm at this stage, although I'm hoping later on down the track we see the signs of it. But I certainly think it's been a beneficial trip, both for the company, for you, and for the wider community. I think I'm excited that what it's going to bring for this year's Bullion Now family. I think it's going to be great.
Yep, fantastic.
All righty, mate. Well, I'll let you trundle off to bed. So thank you very much for staying up, and we'll talk again later on.
Sounds good. See you next time.
Yeah.